My name is Stefan, and I am MyGuru's Director for Online Tutoring, and I'd like to welcome you today to our online MAT classroom, where we're going to take a look at an action-based analogy to discuss how being as specific as possible can help you best eliminate choices, even if you're not 100% certain what the terms may mean, because they help you to hone in on what the relationship should be where you can identify it. So, as we know, we always begin by identifying the pivot term, and we do that first by looking to see where the blank is. And in this case, term B is our blank, and since we know, due to the double dots in the middle, that term B cannot relate to term C, that means that term C is going to be our pivot term that must relate to one of the other provided terms. So we know that avaricious has to relate to either persnickety or money. Now, when you're looking at general MAT analogies, we also know that the MAT generally relates the familiar to the unfamiliar. And I don't know about you, but I would say that money jumps out as the familiar term here. So we know that avaricious has to have some relationship to money, and therefore persnickety has to have some specific relationship to the blank. Now, obviously, if you know it, you can look at avaricious, and you may even notice the part of speech in there of RIC, which comes from the Latin for riches, or rico if you were in Spanish. And so that means that this has to do with a characteristic who is basically belonging to someone that is either obsessed or cares for money. So we're looking for someone being persnickety as caring for something else. So if you just know one of these two terms, it's going to be really beneficial to break them apart, and that defines the second one for you already. Now, that said, you want to prioritize flashcards for any practice problem terms to build your vocabulary, because that's going to be important across the board. There's no way around it. You are going to have to build your vocabulary to really excel at this exam. Now, down the line, what you want to use in your vocabulary building is you want to, of course, have a definition. You should also try to build out synonyms. And lastly, you really want to have those roots and affixes for the reasons that I just illustrated, that you can identify RIC and avaricious, knowing that IOUS, like wondrous or marvelous, is going to be a characteristic of, and then RIC, you may know it from that Latin root, tells me that this is somebody who cares for money. So persnickety has to be somebody who cares for one of these four options. Now, obviously, we know that cash and rich, these are going to be the wrong analogy, because these are dealing with the avaricious and money part, not whatever's happening with persnickety. So at this point, you've reached a good 50-50. And you may know that, for instance, food would be gluttonous. And if that's the case, you can come to the solution that persnickety must be someone who cares especially for details, even if you didn't know the word when you started the problem. Of course, do highlight it for yourself moving forward as something to review during your flashcard vocabulary building that you should be doing in general for this exam.